Hi, my name is Paul Moat. I'm the Communications Director for the Lehigh Valley Tea Party, and this is the first of our series of podcasts with local candidates. We hope to be able to get you to know them better. And today with us, we have George Rivera, who's running for the Parkland District School Board. George, can you tell us about yourself?
Sure, absolutely. So I grew up in Connecticut, um, came to Pennsylvania for work about 12 years ago. I have three children, Cameron, who is 17, Eva, that's 7, and then my middle child, Mason, is 11. And I've known my wife, Shannon, for about 20 years now. We've been married since 2011. And
We'll be putting a picture up of your family.
yes, my beautiful wife, she needs a plug.
Yes.
And I'm also a committee member for the Lehigh County Republican Committee. I was appointed in 2022. I'm also a Tea Party member, and I've been dealing with the committee for about 2.5 years. I was elected last year in the primary, and now I'm looking to build on that success and become a school board director this year. What encouraged me to get involved in politics was when I heard President Trump speak in 2017 after his inauguration. And it was the first time I've heard in my adult life a president say he wants to make America great for everybody. And at first, I didn't think that he was going to be a good president. My wife, I was actually a registered Democrat because I grew up in Connecticut and we were just conditioned to be liberals.
Mm-hmm.
So, but my wife she's always been Republican, and she voted for him and thought that he was going to be a great president. But then when I heard him speak, that's when it woke me up to being a conservative and understanding that conservative values are aligned with my values, as I'm half Hispanic, I'm Italian, I'm also Catholic. So in this day and age, it's hard for me to see being anything other than Republican or conservative and having that align with my personal values.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in Lehigh County, we have to support the conservative movement. So that's why I'm engaged the community as a conservative. I present myself as a conservative, and I'm very proud of being that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's tough to be in Lehigh County right now.
It is.
It is.
It
Yep.
is.
Yep.
It is.
A lot of people will just switch parties just to get elected, and
Mm-hmm.
doesn't seem like the right thing to do.
No, it doesn't. It's we applaud it when it happens at the national level, but at the local level, it's at times can be for personal interest.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to be very wary of that.
Mm-hmm.
So moving forward, my intention is to get on to the school board and to continue to move along, politically in Lehigh County,
Mm-hmm.
because my aspiration, politically, is inspired by looking at the country and saying that in order for the country to be great, we have to have great states, we have to have great cities, we have to have great communities. And I think that when you have personal excellence and you want to be great, you have to, in order for the country to be great, we have to have great people, and it starts with ourselves. So that's kind of
starts right here at the local level.
Yes.
Yep.
So that's
most important.
Yep. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Yep.
Yeah. My thoughts politically.
Great. Thank you. Now, what are your qualifications for the position on the school board?
So I've been managing multi-million-dollar restaurants for about 23 years now, and it started when I was 22 years old. I first started managing restaurants, so pretty much half my life I've been doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I started as an assistant manager, then became a general manager. I worked my way up from dishwasher to manager to general manager, and I've been leading people in that capacity since, as a general manager, since 2008.
Wow.
Yes, and I've always had at least 50 to 65 employees. I've had 3 to 4 assistant managers. I've also developed team members to managers. I've developed team members to my position. So I may not have a public education background, but I do have an background ensuring that people are educated, people are trained properly, people understand their roles and how they contribute to ensuring that we have an operating business or entity.
Mm-hmm.
So how I can take that and use it as a school board director is, well, it's a $200 million budget. Now it's 4 times the amount that I've been managing my entire career. However, I've always given back the company 20% operating profit.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes in how I was able to accomplish that was by looking at each line and understanding how important it is. So, my qualifications are people leadership, seeking to understand before trying to be understood, and just understanding that, yeah, it's a $5 million budget or it's a $20 million budget, but it's not my money. I need to be fiscally responsible and manage these people's money.
So you spend it like it's your own.
Correct. Run
Yep.
it. Yeah, it's
Yep.
a long time ago. My first mentor, he taught me to run it like you own it.
Mm-hmm.
But understand that there's a name above your name. My name's always on the building, but there's a name above my name. So as a school board director, I understand that my number one job is to ensure that Parkland School District has an exceptional education and is doing that with a balanced budget and giving the teachers the resources they need to be successful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Fiscally responsible.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. That's what it's all about.
Yep.
So George, can you talk about your contrast with your opponents in the race?
So there's 4 other candidates that I would identify as opponents. There's the incumbent, David Hine. He's a Republican, but in name only.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because he was colluding with the Lehigh County Democratic Committee, and the county chair for the Democrats was circulating his petition.
Really?
Yes, and he was circulating petitions for registered Democrats.
Was this in the last election?
This was in this current election right now.
Oh
I went down to the county and I went and I looked for myself.
Wow.
Yes. So he did not come to the Lehigh County Republican Committee seeking any type of endorsement or help because he has help from the Democrats.
Mm-hmm. Are you running against him in the primary?
Correct. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, he's an incumbent. He's up for re-election right now.
Mm-hmm.
So he voted to keep the schools shut down. He voted in. He was in conjunction with the COVID, mandates, which were just recommendations when we go back and look at all that. So he voted with that to ensure that they got their funding,
Mm-hmm.
which is done now.
Mm-hmm.
So he bent his core principles and values for temporary funding, which is now gone, and the amount that was given in ESSER funds matches what the district is now over in the budget, which is kind of interesting.
Mm.
So then there's Alyssa Beckwith. She is also a registered Democrat. Used to be a registered Republican, now is a Democrat. And it's interesting that this candidate kind of came out of nowhere, never seen her at a meeting before, and this incumbent school board director is circulating petitions for her because she's a registered Democrat and he's a registered Republican. And the same is for John Macklin. His job is stay-at-home dad is what his job is, which there's nobility in that, in taking care of your family.
Mm-hmm.
However, it seems as though he's been out of the workforce recently. So I question his ability to make time to do the necessary job of the school board director.
Mm-hmm.
He is also a registered Democrat and had his petition circulated by David Hine, and also Lisa Roth, who is a registered Republican, and she's not up for election, but she's sitting on the current school board. Okay.
What a tangled web we weave.
Correct. Yes. So then lastly is Matt Wyman, and he is a registered Democrat, also had help from the current school board directors. Never seen him at a meeting before, never seen him on the Zoom meeting. Same thing with this John Macklin, kind of out of nowhere. And I looked him up and I seen him at the Harris rally that went on in the county, and he's a school teacher in a different school district. And he's also being, in addition to all four, so David Hine, Alyssa Beckwith, John Macklin, and Matt Wyman are all being endorsed by the Lehigh County Democratic Committee. So the Lehigh County Democratic Committee is so anti-Trump, so anti-GOP, but they'll support someone, this David Hine, who's been based on his voting record, has been a staunch Republican his entire life. So what is this tangled web? So what is going on here? And my perception is that it is they are against ideological diversity. The party that wants diversity and wants inclusion doesn't want to include anyone that potentially may think opposite of them. And they're being supported by a group that also feels that way as well. When I ran in 2023, there was the group on their the Lehigh County Democratic Committee and the Upper Lehigh Democratic Club. They all said that the Republican slate is they're book banners, they're not inclusive. I saved everything to motivate me, in the future. But it's interesting that the local Democratic Party will support registered Republicans, but then will stand in front of Ryan McKenzie's office for an hour every Monday. So what is really going on here? Is this guy really a Republican, or is he just putting on a facade so that it looks like they have this diverse ideological stance going on up there? So I guess the comparison would be that I believe that you should have differing views. And a lot of people would argue, well, we shouldn't, for local elections, there shouldn't be any type of political talk or banter, or you shouldn't vote with your party, for school board director, county commissioner. And I disagree. And a lot of people that I talked to in the past, like I've been campaigning since February 18th, and I have this conversation with some folks that want to talk with me past it, knowing that I'm a Republican. And they agree, because we let the political bygones be bygones for how many years now. Look in Allentown. I can't even walk down there without catching a contact high. And I'm afraid to bring my children down there because it's like a war zone down there. Look at what's going on with the tax increase in Whitehall and the lack of leadership in Whitehall. And then we look at other townships. We had this election mishap in Northampton. So we need more people that are conservative minded, that are not going to be moderate. They're not going to be middle of the road. They're not going to watch what they say. They're going to be true to themselves, and we need them in these positions, because everyone on the school board in Parkland, they all agree. They always vote 9-0. They all say the same thing. And I sat 7 hours in this budget seminar on Friday, 7 hours, and they had this huge presentation about the budget. And only one school board director had the gall to say, this is great. This budget is very elaborate, but we can raise the taxes, but we're 12 million in the hole. It's only going to account for 6 million. His exact words were, what is the plan moving forward? And the second those words came out of his mouth, the other school board directors, who happened to be members of the Lehigh County Democratic Committee, or at least they attend the meetings, um, they pounce on this guy. And they're like, well, we have the arts program, we have all these different things, and just going at him. And he keeps trying to like speak and like elaborate on this point because they didn't like he talked way over their heads, like 1,000 feet over their heads. And he's trying to elaborate on this point, and they kept suppressing him and suppressing. So finally he got to say something. He got to explain his point more, and then they just shut him down again.
Yeah.
So think about that. You have a school board member, director, is supposed to be, 9 different people with 9 different ideas. The second one person broke their conditioning, they just went off on him, and that's just been the status quo for this board.
And his question was a very valid question.
Super valid question. What are we doing? Moving? What is a forever fix? And that's their job. You're supposed to be analytical. You're supposed to be strategic. You're supposed to value all stakeholders.
Yep.
It
was more of a forget about it, shut up and don't ask. That's what it sounds like.
Obviously you're hearing it third hand, but that was my perception.
Yeah.
And what he said, that was the out of all the talking that went on, that was the one thing that struck with me the most was what he said. And I agree with it. And I went up to him and I told him, I said, I agree with you. And hopefully I can get on because that's crazy. And I said, it's interesting that they jumped on you. He's like, well, he's like, that's how it is.
Yeah. So George, you mentioned that some people have said that you shouldn't vote along party lines in local elections. Now, do you agree with that?
No, I don't. Like as I mentioned earlier, I feel as though we've gone away from that over the last couple of decades, especially in Lehigh County, and we've let political bygones be bygones, and we've gone too far in the other direction, and we've first it was we allow people to dictate how we talk, right? And then then how we feel, and we want to be politically correct. And I think that that's just weaponizing our words against us. And because we're good people, we don't want to offend. But that was to shift the pendulum, and then it became the silent majority. And then that was about 4 or 5 years ago, and we saw what happened then, and then here we are now.
The left is very professional about shifting the Overton window, as they say.
Correct.
Yep.
And in my opinion, there was a time where the left and the right were actually coming together, right around 2012 when Democrats were occupying Wall Street.
You should have seen 1985.
Yeah.
We were really together.
Yeah. Well, I was 5 years old, so I didn't. But at that time, around 2012, the Dems wanted to occupy Wall Street. We were forming tea parties nationally, and then we were just like, you and I, we're not the problem. They're the problem. And then, Obama started with his rhetoric, and, it kind of like pushed everybody apart. And then, Trump came, and then, the rest is pretty much history. So I think that if you're a conservative, you should vote with your party and give that conservative person a chance, especially at the local levels, because we don't see balanced boards. We have, in commissioners we see them that they're all left, and we see some townships that are run by all people that are Democrat, and they're just in the hole. They're in the red, and we miss contracts, and we missed the email about that contract with the garbage in Whitehall, and it's caused this whole issue. So, I do think that you should stick with your party, and then give that candidate a chance. And then if you don't agree with them, then primary them. But at the very least, we have to encourage people to register as Republican. And then we have to encourage them to vote Republican. And we have to make sure we get the right people to run as Republicans.
Which is difficult now.
It is.
It really is.
It is.
You have a lot of empty slots in these primaries coming up.
Hmm.
Hmm. Um, so, where do you see the school board going in the next couple of years?
It all depends on the next couple elections.
Hmm.
It all depends on.
Assuming you're in.
Okay, so best case scenario, I win in November, and
Republicans take over.
yep, and another Republican gets on as well. You need one person to uh, make a motion, and you need one person to second a motion for things to
Hmm.
make it to the floor.
Okay.
So if you don't have someone that's aligned with you, or doesn't at least like wants to listen to you,
Hmm.
you're really not going to do anything other than be privy to information.
And let me interrupt. What is the political makeup right now of the board?
So it's two registered.
Theoretically.
It's two Republicans in name only,
Okay.
and then there are 7 Democrats.
Okay.
Two of those Democrats, they used to be Republicans,
Hmm.
but one switched because he flat out said he doesn't like Donald Trump. So he switched his political party, switched his core principles and values because he didn't like the man who was president. And another school board member switched parties because she wasn't endorsed by
Hmm.
the Lehigh County Republican Committee in the primary, but they didn't like the way she voted the last couple of years. So that's why
Hmm.
she wasn't endorsed.
Hmm. Okay.
So that's.
I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, it's okay. No, you're fine.
So where you see it going, and so if we'll get the ability to file a motion and
Hmm.
someone to second the motion,
Correct.
and
That's
then
the
it goes
goal.
to the floor for a vote
Yep.
with the general the 9 people vote on it, right?
Hmm. So there's going to be another election in a couple years from now. So the plan is to find some conservative candidates. We have a couple. I don't want to say who they are because they want to kind of keep it under wraps, but we have two really good people that we're looking at that
Mm-hmm.
used to be involved in the district, so they have an understanding of the school district.
Mm-hmm.
So then we get 2 more on, then we have 4 conservatives, and then we have 5
Yeah.
Dems. So then there's going to be another election after that. So that's when we get 1 more, then we have the majority.
Mm-hmm. Do you think Trump's win and is indicating any shift in the electorate?
I believe so because, first of all, he got people out to vote.
Mm-hmm.
He got people out to vote, and it's a shame that we didn't have candidates for certain spots. Like in our area, we have Michael Schlossberg as a Democrat state rep, and he ran unopposed. We could have won that.
Mm-hmm.
We could have won that, and there's a lot of different seats that went unopposed. I feel as though that reinvigorated people after 4 years of having um, a Democrat president and just moving the country in the so far in the wrong direction that
Mm-hmm.
it was relieving for people. You look at some of the local races in the states that happened, some special elections, and I feel as though people forgot, and we allowed Republicans to lose,
Mm-hmm.
and we need people to get that same excitement back.
Mm-hmm.
I will say in the Parkland School District, that area, uh, Mackenzie won. It was a slim margin, but it's interesting because you have little pockets of that district where it's very liberal,
Mm-hmm.
but our numbers have increased over the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, Trump's win it's not the end all be all. It's not the silver bullet, but it's momentum that we need to
Mm-hmm.
carry forever,
Yeah.
forever.
Yep.
And a lot of people are very apprehensive about early voting. I was as well, but he told us you got to do it. We did it, and look at the
Mm-hmm.
end result. We won.
Mm-hmm.
So.
It's really the momentum. You want to get in on the momentum.
Mm-hmm.
People are they're seeing Doge save trillions of dollars. What about a local Doge?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that buying paper and pens, like, can you look at those numbers, things like that?
Correct.
Just cut back on expenses.
Yeah, there's a lot of expenses. I'm glad you brought that up that need to be cut. When I was talking, I met with someone today who works in the district, and he asked me like, well, what are some reasons why you're running? Like, well, I think that we can do a better job managing our money, you and
Mm-hmm.
our tax dollars. And he said, what, you don't like spending money? I said, oh, I love spending money. I just don't like wasting
We
money.
all love
I
spending
don't.
money.
And he mentioned, well, I had to fight to get uniforms for my team, but they spent $600 per helmet on helmets for the football team. That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot. I mentioned, well, I talked to a couple of teachers and administrators in the district, and every day there's garbage cans full of food. Garbage cans full of food.
Mm-hmm.
Are they looking at when they have to replace upholstery? Are they looking at the best? Are they bidding the best bid? Are they looking at, okay, are they balancing quality, or are they looking at what's the best price? So we have to meet ourselves in the middle. Think about
Mm-hmm.
all the pens, to your point, that we use, all the pencils, all the loose leaf paper, all the books. Are we looking at, well, let's get this price because it's a little bit better and we'll save some money.
Mm-hmm.
So I always like to say it's a death by a thousand cuts.
Yep.
um, and you have to make little micro adjustments in order
Mm-hmm.
to have a big win. And it's kind of like, working out.
Mm-hmm.
The first day you go to the gym and you lift weights, you don't look like Arnold Schwarzenegger the first day, but after a couple of years, it finally works.
Yeah.
You do the hockey stick.
Yep.
You do this, and then you hockey stick. So it's the same thing with managing costs.
Sure.
The first day that you make that cut, it's going to be tough. You're going to have to stretch the productivity of people, or you're going to have to get used to a new product. But over time, it's going to make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to have people that are committed, not interested
Mm-hmm.
in doing this.
I'm sure there's probably some low hanging fruit too, like infrastructure costs.
Mm-hmm.
It's my specialty is infrastructure. I know it costs a lot of money, and so does that go out for bid every year? Things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot I'm sure that you could do.
There is. They have this general fund, and it's invested in mutual funds, and there's some stipulations on it. I'm like, well, did you ever think about putting it into an ETF, an exchange traded fund? And the business administrator was like, well, no. I'm like, well, if you put it into this cover called ETF, it's a monthly dividend stock that it gives about a 10% return. It's very, very safe. It's been about the same price. I've been watching it for 5 years.
Really?
You could get about, you take our general fund right now, you put it in there, it
You
can
were
generate.
mentioning.
So the district is tax exempt, so you can invest potentially in an exchange traded fund.
Mm-hmm.
The balance, the general fund balance, is about $20 million. So there's an exchange traded fund. It's called XYLD. It's a cover called. It's a managed account. Um, it's very low fees. However, the return on it is very, very high. I invested in it at one time. Now, the benefit would be it would generate a 10% dividend annually that compounds monthly, so they can withdraw that monthly
Mm-hmm.
if they choose to. Now, I'm not 100% on the stipulations of how the district can invest in it, but that kind of idea,
Mm-hmm.
we need those types of ideas, like different ways of thinking.
Think outside the box.
Correct.
Yep.
In addition to that, have we looked at cutting positions, different administrative positions,
Mm-hmm.
and not to take jobs away, but should we freeze any type of like hiring or adding of positions? We're in the red.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't Have we met the criteria or the amount of students necessary to continue to add students yet? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We're just being told by the business administrator that this is what it is, and it's not a good plan. So if we were to just halt adding any positions, which will stop adding salary because the salary is 75% of our budget.
Mm-hmm.
Pause that for a second, get people to work and run a little leaner, wear more hats,
Mm-hmm.
put a little bit more pressure on people and see how it goes. Because what happens when someone has to take a leave of absence, or what someone has a death in the family and they're gone for a week? Or what if someone decides, oh, I don't want to do this anymore, or they have a baby, or these different things. So you have to like react to that. So like, why not just force the issue and maybe potentially do something that's going to make people uncomfortable or raise eyebrows, but long term, 30, 40, 50 years from now, it's going to have a high dividend because you're getting people to be more productive. And that's the kind of thing that I do in my own business that I operate in, the restaurant, or the company that I work for. There was a position that it was 3 hours a day. So I had to have a grown adult tell them, okay, you can only work 3 hours in this position. It's cleaning. And you can't pay this person a lot of money because they only have one responsibility. So prior to me, they would give this person more things to do so they would stay longer. And then we broke budget by 14 hours a week. So I said, okay, the position is done, and everybody freaked out. I said, well, I'm going to pay you more money. They're like, okay, I'm going to give you, a little bit more, like $1 more. And they were happy about that. But I said, here's what I need in return. So I divvied out the responsibilities of 3 different positions. Now I was able to save about $25,000 a year, $20,000 a year, because I made people more productive. I reinvest some of those hours into my busiest shift, which is Saturday night. So I took away from the slowest part when we're closed, invested into the busiest shift, and I've been increasing revenue by 6% average for the last 52 weeks. So that type of I upset one person who wasn't productive and gave them a different responsibility in the restaurant. Eventually, they moved on. But I made 13 other people happier, and I took care of the business. So one person didn't want to be bought into the change. Okay, that's fine. But it made everything better. So that type of tough decision making is what we need, I think, in every level of government. You need someone that's going to say, okay, this is the issue, this is the problem, let me solve it, but let me create a scenario where everybody pretty much wins. So I think that's leadership in a nutshell. You're a professional problem solver.
In one position, I was friends with a very large company's CEO, and she said that if she ever asked someone why we did something a certain way, and she was told that's because that's always the way it was done, that person was fired. You have to think outside the box.
You have to.
You really do.
You have to think outside the box, and you have to explain the whys, and you have to create buy-in. And you have to do things a certain way. But at the end of the day, we all have a responsibility to a higher power. And it's all at different levels. And as a school board director, your higher power is an exceptional education and providing teachers and administrators the resources to be able to do that, and also without burdening taxpayers with unnecessary tax increases. Taxes, to me, is legal theft. And when it's all said and done, after you work, you really don't make money until April. So to me, it's mind-boggling how, as a resident, you have the ability to not pay more taxes. Why would you not do everything you physically and mentally can to stop that? It's just foolishness. Unless like you're sitting on that board and you're tax exempt because you're not. But why would you want to raise your own taxes? Unless you're like super mega wealthy. So
you think about retired people who have had kids in the school system for 30 years.
Right. In order to get a rebate for school tax, you have to be well below the poverty line. I think it's like you have to make like 15,000 or have, which is crazy. When I first saw this, I'm like, oh wow, let me talk about this. I shared it on my Facebook. And then I dug into it, and I'm like, oh, this is ridiculous. What am I? People are probably laughing at me, thinking I'm an idiot for sharing this. So there needs to be a more mindful approach to how we operate at the local level. more mindful approach. And
I would say all levels, but
yeah,
especially at the local level.
yes, yeah, all levels, but locally, we just need people that are going to, even though it's part time, even though you only get a stipend, even though it's 19,000, whatever it is, you stepped up for this. You took this oath to do this.
Hmm.
You have to think about everybody. The company that I work for, we have three different lenses that we look at things. How does it affect quality? So food quality, because that's the why the people come to the restaurant.
Hmm.
Simplicity, how does this make operations easier? And culture, how does the team win, and how does the guest win, and how does the shareholder win? So for me, it's like I said previous, it's pretty much two lenses: exceptional education and providing the resources to do it. So how does a $600 helmet provide a better experience? How does wasting tons of food every month, how does that help provide an exceptional educational experience for our kids?
Hmm.
I think that doing wasting impedes that because it adds to the wasteful spending
Yep.
that goes on. So we just need people that are going to think more globally,
Hmm.
in a local position.
Hmm. Well, is there anything that we haven't mentioned that you'd like to mention?
Yes, I would like to mention that if you are a registered Republican in Lehigh County, you need to get out and vote. We need to get out and vote. Right now, currently, the Democrats lead us by 8,000 mail in ballots in Lehigh County. That's very alarming.
Hmm.
Now, it's only the primary, right? But you would think that after we embraced this last year and it helped us to win, we would be all about this, but
Hmm.
we're not. And folks need to support their candidates. This county executive race that's coming up is very, very important.
Hmm.
For election integrity and just the whole realm of the county.
Hmm.
And we have a lot of local races as well up for grabs that we need to come out and support our candidates. And for myself, people just need to just in Parkland School District, please come out and vote for me and
Hmm.
support me. And I will, regardless of people's political ideology or party affiliation, I will represent everybody properly and ensure that our children, our greatest assets, I'll do everything I can that they receive an exceptional education.
Okay. Well, if that's all you have to say, um, thank you so much for coming tonight. This was fun.
Thank you for having me.
So, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. And watch out for the next one. Have a good night.